world is still going crazy for comic book movies. And sure, you can argue that it was films like Blade that brought it to the mainstream. If you ask me, it was actually this film. But as well as the movies and comics, Iron Man has not surprisingly appeared in his fair share of video games, appearing for the first time ever in the first ever Avengers game called Captain America and the Avengers, which I'm going to be covering next time. However, for his first proper noticeable appearance that has his name on the front cover, you have Iron Man and X-O Manowar in heavy metal. So in true Slopes Game Room fashion, and to help build up my personal hype for the release of Civil War, I, DJ Slope, will be looking at the very first game based on Iron Man. Video games assemble! Okay, so let's straight away get something cleared up. This is obviously not the first ever Iron Man game. As discussed, the first game was Captain America and the Avengers, and if we was going by the rules of the last video, I suppose you should probably not talk about this game, and instead talk about the Invincible Iron Man for the Game Boy Advance, as it was his first standalone game. Okay. The Invincible Iron Man for the Game Boy Advance is a good game. Not great, just good. Looking more like Maximus from Ghouls and Ghosts than Tony Stark, the game is simply a run and gun game showcasing why you absolutely should play more GBA games. You got snowy levels, construction sites, forests, factories. The gameplay is pretty much there, with its only downfall being that the game is quite short. However, the repetitive nature of the game might actually work with the short time needed. 7 out of 10. There you go. Now, everyone happy? Now back to Iron Man and X-O Manowar in heavy metal. A game that probably should have had a smaller title if you ask me. Now let's answer the big question. Who is this? Well, this game is actually half Marvel Comics and half Valiant Comics, also known as Valiant Entertainment Inc. when this game came out. Valiant was founded in 1989 by former Marvel Comics editor-in-chief Jim Shooter and Marvel Comics writer/editor Bob Layton, and after some pretty damn good years of making their own comics, the company was bought out by Acclaim in 1994. They wanted to turn several of their biggest characters into video game franchises. Remember Turret from the N64? Yep, that was a Valiant comic and was a direct result of this deal. Which finally brings us to this game. So who the hell is X-O Manowar? Well, here's DJ Slope's crude 101 history on the surprisingly interesting origin story of X-O Manowar. So, Aric of Darcia, heir to the throne of the Visigoth people born in 5th century Europe, only knew war. His whole life was a never-ending series of campaigns against Rome. That was until one day an even more hardcore enemy came along to ruin his people's day/life. Enter the evil race of Vine. No, not that Vine. This Vine. Yep, they're aliens. One night during a midnight scouting raid, Aric was abducted, along with his Visigoth people, and he was taken to the far reaches of space with no hope of escape, and was forced to live their lives as slaves. Several years passed, several failed attempts to escape follow, even resulting in Aric's hand being chopped off. During this time they discover that the aliens are looking for someone that can work with this random blue suit thing called Shannara. Everyone that they try and put it onto dies from Shannara's power. However, one day during another escape plan, Shannara is sucked onto Aric, the chosen one you could say, and well, obviously he doesn't die. And on top of that, his hand grows back. However, a lot of his people did die during the escape. In fact, using the armor's ability against the Vine, he only just manages to escape himself, using his new ability to fly back to Earth and, get this, upon his return to Earth, due to time dilation, everyone he knows is dead. Because 1,600 years have passed since his original abduction, bringing X-O Manowar to the 21st century. Again, this is a very crude, quick version of events of an extremely interesting character. Go check him out when you can. I'm quite a newcomer to this comic franchise, but I'm really enjoying it so far. Now let's look at the game. It's fair to say that the game has dated quite badly. It's using those motion caption graphics made famous by such games as Pit Fighter and Mortal Kombat. I'm sure these are more impressive than those in the graphical department, but they still look pretty dated by today's standards. However, with that said, the special weapon actually looks quite good. You can glide and awkwardly fly, especially if you're X-O, and you got your normal gun too. Now, if you ask me, the baddies in the game actually look a little bit naff, very repetitive, which sure is sort of commonplace for games like this, but sadly, when a game plays badly, then you notice it even more and it becomes a chore. Yep, Iron Man and X-O Manowar in heavy metal is a bad game. One of the reasons for this is possibly due to the engine the company used to create the game, called the Real-Time Associates 32-bit Engine and Support Tool, otherwise known as Rat Beast. The big selling point of this in-house made engine is that it can be used to be developed exactly the same on all three systems. Sadly, the downfall of this is that it takes absolutely none of the key features that any of the systems have, and basically it's the best worst game that can be developed for each system. Also, due to the tight deadline and not getting the actual motion graphics for the main characters until extremely late in the process, helped the game look like this. They had no choice, they had to ship it. It's a shame because hidden under these clunky controls, unappealing graphics that honestly didn't even look good for the time, bad level design and boring enemies, is actually quite a good game. Something that could have been an absolute killer. Especially considering that having someone like Iron Man on the front cover not only grabs people's attention like myself, but it makes us want to find out a bit more about X-O Manowar and the crazy amount of completely unknown villains that the game offers. For instance, ever heard of Baron Helmet Zemo? Arnim Zola? Mr. Hyde? Melter? Titania? Yellow Jacket? Goliath? Nope, me neither. But thanks to this game, I am indeed intrigued to go and check them out. I was even interested in picking up the 2-part comic series that accompanied this video game. Probably the only thing that saves it from being completely forgettable. Now, the game was also ported to the Game Gear and Game Boy, and as you're looking at it right now on the screen, I'm sure I don't need to tell you, but it plays just as bad. So in a nutshell, pick up the comics related to this game, check out the characters that feature in it, but be sure to pick up the Invincible Iron Man for the Game Boy Advance instead, because it's just not worth it. And if you're still not convinced, it was one of the very few Valiant comics that Acclaim used before filing bankruptcy in 2004. Video games assemble! Hey guys, thanks for checking out my video on Iron Man's first ever video game. I'm just here to tell you that this video is actually the 4th video in a 6-part series, covering not only the first ever Iron Man game, but also the first Captain America, the first Hulk, Thor, Spider-Man, and finally the Avengers, leading up to the release of what is probably my most anticipated film of the year, Captain America Civil War. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any. If you want to help the show, check my Patreon to see my videos early and see some exclusive content. Follow me on social media by searching for Slope's Game Room. And that's it. This is DJ Slope signing out, and hopefully I'll see you all next time.